Hello, everybody. It's just gone 7 o'clock. So we are going to start our webinar entitled Israel, My Journey, My Reality, with two fantastic speakers, Nir Barkat, the former mayor of Jerusalem, and Oshawa Friedman, co-chair of the Shared Society Boston-Haifa Connection. It is my pleasure, before we get started, to introduce you to our moderator and host for the evening, Stephen Groost. Stephen Groost is the head of the African Governance and Diplomacy Program at the South African Institute of International Affairs in Johannesburg and a freelance writer for the South African Jewish Report newspaper. He's hosted a magazine talk show on Chai FM, community radio station, and has made numerous radio and television appearances. Stephen holds an MSc from the London School of Economics and Political Science, London School of Economics and Political Science in International Relations, and a BA Honours in International Relations from the University of the Witwatersrand. He's also a 5-time South African Scrabble champion. So please welcome your host for the evening, Stephen Groost.
Thank you very, very much, David. And thank you also to the South African Zionist Federation for asking me to moderate what's going to be a fascinating discussion tonight. We're going to first go to member of Knesset, Nir Barkat, who we will get to in a moment, and then we'll talk to Oshra after that. And then we have a special surprise for you. We have a choir that's going to be joining us at the end of the discussions. And just to tell you a little bit about them, before we go to Mr. Barkat, they are the Yamin Orday band, and they live in a youth village in Israel in the Carmel Mountains. They are young people from 22 different countries, from disadvantaged backgrounds, who are living there and being educated with the hope of becoming functioning Israeli citizens. So, and I've heard their music, it's absolutely beautiful, and we're going to have a really nice musical treat for you. But first, to member of Knesset, Nir Barkat. Good evening, Mr. Barkat. Can you hear me?
Yes, indeed. Shalom. How are you?
I'm very well, thank you. So our thoughts have been with Israel over the last few weeks. It's been a difficult time, I think, for everybody in Israel, and of course also for us in the diaspora. We very much have had our hearts with what was happening. I'm hoping that June will be a better month than May was. But firstly, just to ask you, Mr. Barkat, you moved from high tech into politics. Tell us a little bit about your experience in the high tech world. What attracted you to that world, and then why did you make the transition to politics and become mayor of one of the most beautiful cities in the world?
Well, my personal experience is that after I served 6 years in the paratroopers in the Israeli army, with a lot of extensive combat experience, I have my bachelor's in computer science in Hebrew University. And at the tail end of school, our computers were attacked by viruses, computer viruses. And so my partners and I developed some antivirus software and found ourselves developing a real garage operation, a real startup that initially we started selling in Israel, then broke through to the American market and understood how to take Israeli ideas to the global marketplace. We made our first millions from antivirus software, and then invested some of our capital in a small company called Checkpoint, which is one of the largest cyber companies in the world today, headquartered in Jerusalem, in Israel. I was chairman of Checkpoint in its first 4 years, and evolved to do venture capital work. And you know, when you're a venture capitalist and we made some of our own capital. Beverly and I, my wife and I, she's South African. She immigrated to Israel when she was 10 from Benoni and Johannesburg. We decided to invest in education. And through those investments in education, I've learned some of the challenges in my own hometown, Yerushalayim. And the more I got exposed, the more I realized that things can work much better. And so when I was 42, that was 19 years ago, I decided to retire from my business career and focus on how to bring my skills, my entrepreneurial skills, my high-tech skills, to public service. So I served 15 years. I served the city of Jerusalem, out of which 10 years as mayor of Jerusalem. And towards the tail end of my mayorship, I decided not to run a third term and focus my experience and knowledge on the national level. And next week, I'm actually proposing my vision for Israel, the national vision, as a public servant. So this is where I come from, and this is what I'm doing today.
So what, firstly, I like the way you say your first millions, because I'm yet to make my first millions. And also I'm more than 42, but I'm not able to retire from my first job. So you're in a fortunate position, but it's amazing that you decided to give back to society, to share your knowledge and to share your experience with the citizens of Jerusalem. And as you say now, onto a national level. I mean, for me, I was very privileged after school to spend 1 year in Israel, of which 5 months was in Jerusalem. That was in the year 1990, which was the year before the Soviet Union disappeared, and also the year before the Gulf War. And I remember very, very clearly how the green line was very visible. You could see where the old city started and the new city ended, and there was no man's land in the middle. And when I was very fortunate to go back to Israel a number of years later, the beautiful mall that's on the outskirts of the city is there. There was a light rail that was never there in my day. I mean, what are you most proud of in the development of the city in those 10 years when you were in the mayor's seat?
Oh, it's multiple perspectives and ideas. I think that Jerusalem has become a more attractive city, more successful on the economic side. When I entered my role as mayor, the budget was 3.5 billion shekels, and I left when it was 9 billion shekels. Huge infrastructure, huge development. The things you see now, all the cranes in the air, are all projects I started sometime 7, 8, 10 years ago. And so I believe that I'm a builder. And when you look at what we've built, is not just the physical city. I've been working with Professor Michael Porter from Harvard Business School in boosting Jerusalem's economy. Just before the Corona, Jerusalem was the fastest growing tourism city in the world 2 years in a row, and the fastest growing high-tech city in the world in 2019. And so you see huge growth, huge impact on the city. Also, I had my challenges on the security side, and Jerusalem is well equipped with really good security. If you'd like, if I think the word is probably security, both from external and internal threats. The education system is dramatically improved, and I can go on and on. Actually, you know, there's a famous phrase in Hebrew, Ki mitzion tetzeh Torah. The Hebrew speakers probably, it means that from Zion, which is Jerusalem, new thought leadership comes to the world. And so I know from my experience that things that work in Yerushalayim are very relevant to the rest of the country and beyond. And so I'm taking that experience from Yerushalayim, and now my goal is to take it to the next level, to the phase of all of Israel's periphery and all over the state of Israel.
It's interesting that you talk about high tech in Jerusalem, where I think the perception is often that Tel Aviv is the capital of high tech. You know, all along the coast, Silicon Wadi, etc. I mean, interesting. Tell me a little bit more about the technology that Jerusalem is bringing to Israel.
Yeah, Jerusalem has a huge asset, which is called the Hebrew, which is top 10 in the world in mathematics, computer science, and life sciences. And so what we did in my role as mayor is created the ecosystem to keep the entrepreneurs in the city. Because in the past, the city didn't really know how to do that. And so when I started my role, Jerusalem had about 200 startups, similar to Haifa. Haifa had also 200 startups. When I finished my role, Haifa had 250 and Jerusalem 700. We were able to attract significant amount of companies. Some of them are billion-dollar companies like Mobileye. Mobileye, you probably know, is actually the largest acquisition in Israel's history. They're a Jerusalem-based company. They were sold to Intel for $15 billion. And today, the autonomous vehicle research and development, the global research and development of Intel, is located in Jerusalem. And we have a few companies that are really, really smart technology. It's all about students from the entrepreneurs that studied in the Hebrew University in these departments. So we were laser focused on things we're really good at globally and created that ecosystem, and we're really successful in scaling those successes to be much, much larger. We have over 3,000 new engineers in Jerusalem added to the labor force every year in the last 7-8 years, including last year, which was a tough year for the global economy. Jerusalem grew with over 2,500 new employees in high tech, and that is our future.
And what do you say to the perception that Jerusalem is really for religious people, that it's a magnet for Mea Sharim and those sorts of areas, whereas, if you really want to do business, you should be living in Tel Aviv or in Haifa?
Well, Jerusalem is a microcosmos of all of Israel. And if you really want to know how Israel will look 2-3 decades from now, go take a deep look into what is happening in our city. And thank God we were focusing, when I was mayor, we were focusing on the common denominator. We had 31 council members, 30 were in my coalition. And we focused on how to make the city tick better, work better. Not necessarily focusing on the differences, but how do we bring better education, better economy, more infrastructure. And so when you push like that, there's very little objection and rejects from the public. And we were able to focus on growth rather than on anything else. Now, that brings lots of opportunities. I had a course of the Army and the Shin Bet and the Mossad. Used to bring all their schools to meet me for some inspiration. And one of them one day asked me, do I believe in pluralism? And basically I said, if you go to Tel Aviv and you ask people, they'll all have the same understanding of what a pluralism actually means. Everyone thinks of pluralism the same. When you come to Yerushalayim, people have different perspectives on what pluralism really means. If you ask Haredi, men and women, or Arabs, or Christians, and Muslims, and secular, and national religious, they all have different perspectives. And how can you put all that into one? It's a huge challenge. And that creates opportunities. It's not a problem. I believe that you talk about the differences in our city. It's not a bug, it's a feature. And so I look at Jerusalem as a huge opportunity to do things that one can copy all over the world. That if it works in Yerushalayim, it works everywhere else.
Do you think there's still rivalry between Yerushalayim and Tel Aviv? I mean, in South Africa, we have rivalry between Cape Town and Johannesburg, and cities have different characters, they have different features and so forth. Do you think this rivalry with Tel Aviv is a healthy rivalry, or is it something that should be avoided, or is there no competition at all?
It's like soccer teams. You have to have rivalry to bring the best out of people. But I usually like to quote the phrase in high tech, which is co-opetition. You compete, but you also cooperate. You cooperate together because you want to create a better Israel relative to the world. And you may want to compete on quality of businesses. I competed on bringing more of the more of the sports and culture to Yerushalayim. So we built the largest arena in the country. We built the largest soccer field so that we compete well with infrastructure and opportunities to Tel Aviv and other major cities in the country. Now, as a parliament member, I see these initiatives as healthy because you want people to learn from peers. You want that internal competition. It drives people to excellence. And I see this as a really good thing, not a bad thing.
Last year was a very tough one when the coronavirus hit the world. We in South Africa have, thousands of cases. We're heading to a third wave. How do you think the virus affected the city, and where is it now in relation to overcoming it? I think obviously something like tourism has been affected all around the world. How has the city been able to recover, or what do you think its plans will be to regain that status of being the #1 tourist attraction in Israel and in that part of the world?
A bit of help from the government, but more importantly, Israelis couldn't go abroad, and we travel a lot. And all of a sudden, Israelis found Israel as a destination for tourism. My wife and I, in the last year, didn't go abroad even once. And when we had the opportunity, we went out to different hotels in the country, and we found out that we have a beautiful, wonderful country in general. Now, I don't sleep in hotels in Yerushalayim because I have somewhere better than a hotel. However, I see many, many Israelis filled in, and we survived the coronavirus, and still you see more Israelis now. The external tourism was replaced by internal tourism. But I believe that now that we're the first country to exit Corona safely, securely, there's many, many beautiful opportunities in Israel for business, for growth. The city is ready to rock and roll, lots of opportunities. I was actually yesterday, I met the mayor, the new mayor, and his team. We said goodbye to one of the employees that worked 50 years in our city. And I think the city is gearing up, looks good, as the rest of the country. What we need now is stability on the national government, because the national budget, the national government has been unstable for 2 years. So hopefully we'll get the right government. I'm concerned we may have the wrong government, but we do need stability.
We may have another election. Who knows? The fifth election in 2.5 years. How does that instability, do you think, affect Israel on the national scale? We in the diaspora think maybe there's too much democracy in Israel. That it's going to 4 elections and maybe 5 elections with very similar results. It is unstable, especially when the country faces external threats like we've seen in the last month.
Well, it's not good. Nobody's happy with the fact that Israel is going through a real political and legal mess in many, many ways. And so it does affect the people, it does affect us, me in the parliament and others. And some people say that it's better that the government's not interfering with the business life, because Israel's economy and the export and the growth is on the fast track for growth. We may hit 6%.
Seems to have frozen.
We may hit 6%.
Are you still there?
6%. I'm there. Yeah. Can you hear me? Hello? Hello?
Hi, Nir, I can hear you.
Can you hear me?
I can hear you. It looks like we might have lost Stephen. We'll try get him back.
Okay, well, then I'll continue with your permission until he's back.
Please do. Thank you.
So I think that the biggest challenge right now is how to bring calm to our country. Politically, the situation is that you have 2 ways of looking at Israel's politics. We have about almost 80 mandates out of 120 that are right of center, and 40 that are left and center. However, you've got the Bibi camp and the not Bibi camp, which is practically 50-50. And so right now, the anti-Netanyahu camp is trying to form a government. And the form of the government is a little bit of right and the majority of left and center. And so the challenge is, do you create a homogeneous government with Netanyahu, or do you create a heterogeneous government that has little in common in terms of goals to replace Netanyahu? Now I'm on Netanyahu's side here, so I have my own very clear will and goal. But that's what's been happening in the last 2 years, back and forth, one after election after the other, and we will see how to get out of this. It's not a healthy situation to be in, but you know, we've been in worse situations before in Israel's history.
Thank you, Mr. Bakat. Stephen is there. There he is. Over to you, Steve.
Sorry about that. We're experiencing electricity shortages in South Africa. Unfortunately, something called load shedding, and I think it's affecting our audience and myself. So sorry to have disappeared there.
No problem.
We've got a few more minutes with you, Mr. Bakat. What do you think? What sort of message would you give to South Africa about Israel in its current state, and Jerusalem as a city? What's special? You've told us a lot of what's special about it, but why do you think? Firstly, actually, sorry about that. There was a question in the questions which asked, can South Africans come and visit Israel at the moment, and do you know what the restrictions are? I know it's been difficult for people who've wanted to make Aliyah. There are only limited flights. I don't think El Al is flying to South Africa at the moment, which makes it a bit more difficult. So you have to go Ethiopian Airlines. But sorry, just to ask that question, is Israel open for tourism to South Africans?
I don't know the restrictions you have on if you enter Israel, what kind of restrictions you have if you don't have immunity and didn't get your shots. But I, as an Israeli, I got my immunes, and I'm practically free to go anywhere in the world and come back home. So it depends if you've got your immunity. But this is something that for me is a minor detail. Because we are slowly opening up to people in countries that have no threat, don't pose any threat to Israel. So that will be my statement. I don't know specifically.
Okay.
I do know that I had two dear friends from South Africa, Marcel and Mati Danon, that they're Cape Towns. They're in Cape Town, and they came to Israel for almost half a year. In the corona, they got their shots, and their daughters are here, and we spent a lot of time together in Israel. Now they're back in Cape Town.
I know that you do have another meeting to get to, but I can't let you go without giving us a preview of this vision that you're going to be unveiling next week. Please tell us, some of the things that you'll emphasize in that vision.
Sure. Well, I look at life as an entrepreneur, as a high-tech entrepreneur, understanding how technology and high-tech could change the world, is changing the world. And so if I look at our economy, the key is expanding export. Israel today has $110 billion export a year. And my goal is to get to $1 trillion a year in export. And this is something that you want to gear up the whole country. The world is waiting for our ideas, not just in cyber and high tech, which I come from, but also in health and agriculture. We've defined a new term called desert tech, which is how to create, significant better life in deserts like the Negev and the south of Israel. And you're going to see us excel in areas that high tech could really transform them. And my goal is to help the Israeli entrepreneurs and businesses scale to the global opportunity. We have 9 million people. The world has 9 billion. So you got 1,000 more customers out there. And so I believe that year after year, by focusing on growing the export, it's a strategic plan. You also want to, once it rains, you want to make sure that more and more people enjoy the fruits of technology and high tech. And this is something is unique. I believe we can make a huge difference in expanding the pie. Because right now, if you look at our budget, the country's too big for the current budget. We need to dramatically increase the budget, and that has to be done through export. Another point is, while we have, unfortunately, enemies around us like Iran and their proxies in Hezbollah in the north, and in Gaza you've got Hamas, and they unfortunately did not change their charter to destroy Israel. And so we have to outsmart them. And if you look at what happened in this round of violence with the rockets coming from Gaza, then you see how Israel, with great technology, did not need to risk our soldiers. And through technology and through really smart intelligence, we were very, very targeted. We were also very effective in targeting the bad guys. And unfortunately, one Israeli soldier died, or 12 Israelis were unfortunately lost their life. So if you look at our defense and our offense, they're really interwoven with technology. And we need to be very laser focused on making sure that Iran and their proxies were 10 steps ahead of them in terms of preparations and our ability to beat them. Then there's also education and health systems that have to be upgraded. And last but not least, I talk about our periphery, the Galil, the Golan, the Negev, Arava, Yehuda v'Shomron, Judea and Samaria. And how do we make those remote areas more attractive for young couples in the future? Because I want to make sure that more and more young couples prefer to go to the periphery because we have cheaper land, and it's a complex plan that I'm busy focusing on. And so what I'm proposing is how to make Israel a dramatically more successful place, more secure, with higher quality of all of the education systems and health systems and other issues. And it's all about expanding the pie, and then with a wise way, doing the right things.
Fantastic, thank you. We look very forward to hearing more about Israel just growing from strength to strength to strength.
So if you're Hebrew speakers, if some of you are Hebrew speakers, we'll probably have that online, so you could see we're almost the same time zone.
Yes.
You'll be able to see it live if you like.
So yeah, thank you very, very much, Nir.
My pleasure.
I see Oshawa, you have your hand up. What did you want to ask something to Mr. Barkat? Just unmute yourself.
It was basically by mistake. I'm so sorry, but I was delighted to hear Nir Barkat. Lovely to see you.
Mr. Barkat, thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you, and keep strong. I know that your community is going through some tough times sometimes, like we do. And come and visit us, and we'll come visit you. I'll be, once we get our act together, we'll come and say hello.
Lovely. We'd love to see you when you're in South Africa.
Thank you so much.
That's member of Knesset for the Likud party, Nir Barkat, who was the mayor of Jerusalem for 10 years. And let me tell you, he only draws 1 shekel in salary for being a member of Knesset. So I think there are a few things you could teach our parliamentarians in South Africa. All the best.
Thank you so much. Bye-bye.
We're going to move seamlessly into our next guest, who is Oshawa Friedman. Good evening, Oshawa.
Hi, how are you?
I'm good, thank you. Where are you joining us from tonight?
I'm actually in my house finally. At this time, usually I would be on the road, but this time I'm in Haifa, nearly Haifa.
Okay, lovely. My brother has just moved to Haifa, and they're really enjoying the lifestyle there. So
yeah, it's a wonderful city.
It's a beautiful city. It's a beautiful city. But what I want to do is really your Israel. And your Israel experience is a different one to Nir Barkat's. You came to Israel as part of Operation Moses. I believe you were 7 years old. What do you remember about those days? Tell me the story.
Oh, I remember everything, but it's going to take you the whole hour that you were planning for this program, so I'm not going to do that. Um, but I would say that I arrived to Israel when I was 7. I always knew that our house is going to build up in Jerusalem, which I was happy about it since I was young. My parents were really working really hard to make sure that we'll be able to survive the road and arrive finally. If I'll just skip little bit of the story, say that
Yes.
you live in a very small village, wonderful village, a very good life, but not really able to practice Judaism freely and safely, and then to decide one night that it's our turn to take the journey and walk for 3 weeks to Sudan and spend a year in the refugee camp and then arrive to Jerusalem in Israel, which we didn't know that it's not Eretz Israel because we always dream about Jerusalem of gold, and find out that you have to build the whole entire life from the beginning, just from a scratch, whether it's a language, a culture, society, and learning the system, and make sure that your whatever you brought with us supposed to be fit into the new society that you're going into, and what kind of struggles you have to deal with. And I think for everyone who is a new immigrant, or even it can be here for 30 years, it doesn't matter. The best memory is the first impression that you have on the first time that you meet the new country. And I was curious about the Israeli society. I was curious about Judaism, to find out that there is white Jewish as much as black Jewish. It's a fascinating thing. And also know that there is Eretz Israel and not just Jerusalem as we dreamed of. And at the same time, also to understand that whatever we were dreaming about, it's not really suitable to the fact and the reality, and how you handle that, how you actually make sure that even though your dream is kind of breaking down, how you build from that thing something new that you can really believe, because visions and dreams that become true can be really a very traumatic thing on one hand, and also a very successful thing on the other hand. And I'm the youngest from 13 kids. We arrived only with 9 kids. We lost some on the way. And to see my parents struggling, and for me becoming part of the Israeli society, which is a huge difference and a very big gap to close, I think this is something that I can relate to it when every time there is a new aliyah coming in and I say, oh, I have the tools to give you, kind of a preparation that I can make for you. So this is how I see it.
So just take us back a little bit. You said you walked from Ethiopia. Whereabout was your village? Which village did you come from?
So my village was in Wazawa, next to Gondar.
Okay.
So we had a guide. My brothers, 2 years before we took the journey, they already came to Israel, but we didn't have any connection with them because they wasn't able to do that. And then my dad decided that since the whole entire village is trying to walk and take the journey, it will be a good time for us to do. So, we left everything behind and we just took the road. And when I say take the road, it's not a bus and it's not a car. We have only one donkey, but a very, very, very strong spirit and feet, and a dream that hold us through the way. I can honestly say that there were people who started the journey with us, but they didn't survive the journey. And probably some of them who did, each one of them lost a few kids or a family member in that way or another. And this is something that you're really taking with you the whole way.
That's difficult when you lose people you love. But I mean, the dream must have been so powerful to leave Ethiopia, to be prepared to. Did you say you were in Sudan for a year in a refugee camp? I mean, what was that like for an 8-year-old girl? That must have been tough.
That was horrible. I was 6 when I arrived to a refugee camp. So after a year, I came to Israel, and I think I don't think people realize what it means when we talk about refugee camp and how big it is in the middle of the desert when everybody is actually coming to keep themselves safe. Not be able to practice Judaism at the refugee camp, keeping Shabbat, really, really dedicated, not just showing something that can make you a little bit on a risk that way or another. I was a very curious person. I was, everything is interesting. So I'm asking questions. I'm making my own team of investigating and see what is happening at the camp and realizing that this is going to be our home for the next year. And we should, settle down and see what is going to happen. But also seeing not a very pleasant things and situations when people are passing away and there's no place to come. I wouldn't say a war or fight, but disagreements and how you solve that without making sure that they know that you are Jewish and you are here just for certain reason. And also people that you lose on the way because the camp is so big. It's huge. I mean, I wouldn't even have a picture how to describe this. And I think this is things that make you, whether a very strong person or it can, make you really weak and not be able to bear the whole situation.
So how did you get from Sudan then to Israel?
After a year, we flew to Israel. After 5 hours, we landed in Jerusalem. And there's a huge picture that everybody who hear about the Ethiopian immigrant story see that the parents come out from the plane and they, knee down to the floor and kiss the land, which is amazing picture. But there's one picture that people don't see, and that is what the kids do in the meantime. And as a kid, since we have been told that Jerusalem is full of gold, we were looking for the gold. But there's no picture for that. The only picture that you see is that our parents kissing the land because they make the dream come true. So for me, that was a very new experience. But also, when you don't explain to a new immigrant how life in a new country should look like, and you make the whole bunch of mistakes, and you, as a new immigrant who wanted to be part of the Israeli society, I basically needed to actually smash my whole identity and built it all over again just to belong to the Israeli society. And over the years, I learned that was a huge mistake because that wasn't supposed to be. I mean, I have a very good values and education that I bring with me from background, and I need to make sure that this new culture that I'm going into will be able to respect and be able to give me the opportunity to be part of the diversity population in the country without even make me feel uncomfortable or not belonging in any other way that you can call it. And it took us a while to build that. For our parents, it was something like, we should thank God that we are here and we make our dream come true, but not really talking about their struggle, their disappointment, maybe not being able to work, because back in Ethiopia, you could work anytime and every year. Here, after a few years, you became like pension. You get a pension to just not work, and this is something that it's not really suitable. So I think those little things is something that that we should work, continue working on that for every new group that is coming to Israel or any other country, it doesn't matter.
So for my work, I often travel to Ethiopia. I've been to Addis many times, probably 10 or 12 times over the last few years. And one of the things I do if I'm there over Shabbat is I look for, I've attended the Chabad shul that's in Addis, and you have to find the little alleyways and go there for Shabbat. And sometimes there are Ethiopians who have been living in Israel, have come back to Ethiopia to just discover a little bit more about their culture. And at both times when I was there for Shabbat dinner, we had an amazing conversation with Israeli Ethiopians who were coming back and trying to reconnect to that side of their identity. I wanted to ask you that what, you know, my understanding is that there were about 40,000 Ethiopians that came to Israel, and today there are about 140,000. I know there was recently, at the beginning of this year, yet another flight of immigrants of, you know, the last small communities that are now still coming to Israel, even today. Can you tell us, just in the few minutes that we've got left, a little bit of a flavor of the Ethiopian community and the Ethiopian experience in Israel?
There is one thing that, you know, when you are on the diaspora or aboard, you see and you read through the media in any form what is happening with the Ethiopian community and who is bringing who and how many are arriving every time. One of the dilemma that I used to have many years ago is why, when someone recognized being Jewish and he wants to arrive to Israel, why not to bring them, all of them, and close the gap? And instead of leaving families apart for so many years. And I think this is something that is really worked out really nice lately, but we still have, you know, a lot of work to go through. I think in the Ethiopian community, it's really divided to three groups, you can say. 3 different generations. The generation of our parents satisfied, and they will never criticize any part that is wrong for them. They will respect and probably will deny that something is really wrong is happening or being hurt. And the second generation is the generation of my age and my brothers, who have been studying here and went to school and served the army and went to high school and universities, etc., who have the knowledge to sit down and have this conversation of how we can help in order to make the situation much better, to show the tradition and the culture, because every time, you know, it's, look at your neighbors. You can always ask, what do I know about my neighbor and what does he know about me? Because sometimes we forget to talk to each other, and sometimes not sometimes, all of us are really judging others and having these kind of stereotypes. And once we sit down and talk to each other, we'll find out that there's a lot of in common instead of something, you know, make the difference. And so my generation and my brother's generation is actually based on that fact, saying that we know how the two systems, two cultures, the two different societies are talking to each other or thinking about each other, and we are capable to build this bridge to make sure that you know, both sides will be able to talk, because at the end of it, we are talking about one society. There is no others. There will be diverse groups, but still it's the Israeli society at the end of it. And there's the new generation who have been and raised in Israel, and their parents might be academic or even my brother's generation, and they feel equal. But there's one thing when you come to talk about racism and stereotypes and judgment, but there's one thing that the Ethiopian community cannot deny, and it's the skin of the color. And how you can change that, how you make sure that people will be able to see beyond the skin color, beyond of that, making sure that you give the opportunities to everyone. And this is the system that we are working on every daily basis. Let's say I volunteer, I choose where I want to volunteer, and I volunteer as a co-chair at the Share Society in Haifa-Boston Connection. And one of the things that we are working is making sure that there is a very respect and inclusion discussion about vulnerable population in Haifa, how we make sure that each one of the groups will be able to connect to each other, and how we help them to build up their life next, not just because we are the one who are privileged to do it, just because we have a little bit experience, but nothing that we are going to do is not going to be able to be done without them. They are part of the activities that we are creating. I think in the end of it, I would say that as a new immigrant, as a very Israeli Zionist Jew, as you can hear, I can say that at the end of it, I do believe that humans are really, really, really amazing. At the end of it, it's up to us. It's our responsibility to take part and choose where we want to change, where we want to make our impact, why we don't stand by when something wrong is happening, how we create this system that will be able to give you a very safe area to walk around and talk and share your thoughts without making sure that someone is not going to shut you up. And I do believe on working together. I do believe that we have a society with lots of pieces of puzzle, and if you take one of them, something is going to miss and it's not going to be really whole.
And I think there's no question of the contribution that Ethiopian Jews have made to Israel. I think they are a very important part of the society, and like every immigrant group, they bring their own culture, they bring their own food and customs, and it just makes that tapestry that is Israel all the more appealing and all the more interesting. Oshawa, I could have talked to you the whole night. I would love to hear more of your story, but unfortunately we are out of time. So I just want to say a big thank you for joining us. It's been a pleasure, and we look forward to, maybe you'll come to South Africa one day and we'll have you for Shabbat dinner. Okay, thank you.
It would be my love to do that. It will be a pleasure.
Thank you, Oshawa. I'm now going to...
You're welcome.
We're now going to turn to the choir. Just to remind you again, this is the Yamin Orday band who are going to be singing for us live. They live in a youth village in Israel in the Carmel Mountains, and there are young people from 22 different countries from disadvantaged backgrounds who are living and being educated there with the hope of becoming committed citizens of Israel and the best people that they can possibly be. So David, if we can spotlight onto the choir, we'll do that, and then I'll end off.
Thank you, Stephen. There we go. I'm going to spotlight you. Over to you guys.
Hello, we are Yamin from Yamin School, and we are going to sing you a song about peace. לב אל לב נפתח בתקווה לאהבה. כשהלב נפתח עומק את העולם עומק מתחתיו
Thank you very, very much, Orday. That was really beautiful, coming to us live from Israel through a mobile phone. So thank you very, very much. We really enjoyed listening to you. And that's going to be it for the evening. David, I don't know if there are any final announcements, but thanks to the Zionist Federation for putting on tonight. We had well over 150 people who were in attendance, and I'm not sure if there are any further announcements, Dave.
Thank you very much, Stephen. And no further announcements except to say thank you so much to yourself for facilitating such a fantastic discussion, and our choir in Israel, who were just amazing, really added a bit of spirit and love to the proceedings. Thank you to our speakers. Thank you to everyone for joining us, and we will see you next time. Have a good evening, everybody.